This is not sweet at all.
Yeah.
And this is a problem. Because when something is not sweet and it has sugar in it, you will start eating and you won't stop.
What to pinch a line of Cosy D'Amato, who was the mentor of Mike Tyson, he said, "What's the difference between fear, between a coward and a hero? They both experience fear, but it's what the hero does with that fear that makes him a hero, and it's what the coward does with that fear that makes him a coward." And at times, I would be at work at that time, and my mum would phone me and she would say, "Oh yeah, there's a man here in a high-vis holding some boxes. What have you ordered?" I go, "Mum, take them there and just leave them there." And I would literally run from my job at that time during my lunch, because I didn't want my mum to pick up the boxes.
Yeah.
And pick the boxes and put them in the freezer, so they wouldn't basically defrost.
Welcome back to another episode of Fitpod with Nasser. Today we have a guest who has taken Birmingham's dessert scene by storm. He's the founder and the CEO of Sweet Joe's, a brand that's bringing a fresh and nostalgic twist to cookies right in the heart of Grand Central. Ammar Saleem turned his passion for sweets treats into a thriving business, and we're here to find out what inspired him to step into the world of cookies, the challenges he faced along the way, and his vision for the future of Sweet Joe's. From perfecting the perfect bite to competing in a booming dessert market, Ammar's journey is one of a passion, persistence, and a love for creating something truly special. So, grab a coffee, maybe even a cookie, and let's dive into the story of Sweet Joe's with the main man behind it all, Ammar Saleem. Thank you very much, Ammar, for coming to the studio.
Thank you for having me, Nasser.
How are you? And
Alhamdulillah,
how are you feeling?
I'm feeling well. Feeling well.
How many packets of lockets have you?
I've consumed probably 2 dozen since yesterday. As you can see, I've got a bit of a cold, so I sound a bit flat.
Well, as long as you're here, we're gonna listen to your story. We want to know, why did you take the cookie route? Because, you know, technically they want to do the whole dessert kind of thing, range, you know, your typical dessert. So my first question to you is, what inspired you to start the Sweet Joe's? Was it a specific moment or memory that sparked the idea?
So I graduated in 2000.
Take that mic closer to you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yep, that's perfect.
So I graduated in 2010 with a degree in biological and forensic sciences. And although science was something that I found interesting and I was passionate about, but I never really saw myself working in a lab. Job market was very difficult for graduates. Because we were just on the back end of the 2008 recession that happened. There were all sorts of closures. I had saved a bit of money whilst I was at uni, buying and selling BMW parts. And I had this concept to start a pizza shop.
Right.
And that was my first dabble in business. Now, I partnered up with a friend of a friend, as it happened, and trying to do the recipe of the pizzas and perfecting the menu. I wanted cookie dough to be an item on the menu. And our cookie dough started out selling our pizzas. And that was the first moment of, well, hold on a minute, there's something going on here. And that was a time where we started seeing a lot of specialist dessert shops popping across. I think in Birmingham, you had something called Something Sweet. Don't know if you remember that, on the Ladypur Road.
Sweet. Yes, yeah.
And they were sort of the trendsetters, and that was the first introduction to desserts in Birmingham for a lot of dessert lovers. And then Heavenly Desserts opened at that time.
Yeah.
And I saw a market in which there was room for growth, and that was the initial beginning of actually, well, hold on a minute, you could do something with this product.
So why cookies? Did you always have a passion for baking, or did, like you said, you know, the business idea came from another interest?
No, I mean, I've got a massive sweet tooth. something that my dentist will concur about. And I remember trying cookie dough myself for the first time in 2009. I'm thinking, whoa, what is this? Cookie dough and ice cream, this is amazing. And I just really liked the product. It wasn't so much, I didn't even do much research at that time on the market of how many cookies are sold in the UK or whatnot.
Yeah.
It was just literally, okay, I like this product and I could sell this. And that was the initial thing, what I started to do, because the pizza shop wasn't doing that well. Actually not too far from here, in Boldmere High Street.
Boldmere, yeah,
Yep.
okay.
What I did was then I started selling the cookie dough to all of the shisha cafes, introducing it to them, introducing it to some of the milkshake bars that really didn't have the item or didn't know where to source it, to sort of validate the idea and see if there's a market for it or not. Yeah. And I was making money. I was making more money selling that on the side than I was being involved in my pizza shop, which was actually quite depressing. But that failure taught me a lot of lessons.
But, okay, tell me, where does the name Sweet Joe?
Yeah, so this is you're going to have to go a bit forward for this now. So what happened was I started the company in 2014.
Right.
And I continued to do it as I was doing it whilst I had a pizza shop. I found a manufacturer. I would buy in bulk. I would repack the product. And I would go knock on the door of all these different dessert parlours. And I would sell my cookie dough to them. And I joined a business startup that Bank of Scotland was doing at that time called Entrepreneurial Spark. So they offered you this office space in the city centre. They gave you access to mentors. They told you how to pitch. And literally, you were in there for stages. So the first stage was for 3 months. If you succeeded, then it was 6 months. After 6 months, they gave you a space for a year. They gave you an enabler, they called it. An enabler who would be your personal mentor, who would temperature check you and see how far your progress has gone every 2 weeks. He was a Scottish guy called Joe Trodden. That was his name, right? So you know where this is going now, right? Okay, right? So
he was a sweet guy.
Yeah, he was everything but sweet, right? Okay. He was an old school, straight to the point, brutal Scottish lad. Loved smoking a cigar or two. And at that time, I'd registered the company under the name Cookie Dough Limited, with the variation of the word cookie. And he said it's too generic. You need to create a brand. To create a brand, you have to have a different name.
Yeah.
So he said this 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks later, I'm heading towards my temperature check with him, and I still haven't got a name. And I know I'm going to get grilled. So I'm thinking, okay, what can I do now? So I thought, you know what? This guy's making my life a misery. I want to annoy him, right? I'm going to call it Sweet Joe's. And literally, that's how the name came about.
Wow. And you know, sometimes those are the kind of names that really stick.
Yeah, I mean...
You can think of a name for days and you just won't get it.
Yeah, yeah.
See, if it wasn't for Joe, the Not So Sweet Joe.
Not So Sweet Joe, yeah. We wouldn't have Sweet Joes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, what was the biggest challenge in getting Sweet Joe's off the ground? See, now I'm thinking about, I wonder what Sweet Joe, not Sweet Joe, I wonder what Joe looks like now.
I'll introduce you to him if you want. I still got him on my LinkedIn. The biggest challenge with any business is actually starting the business, right? You've got an idea, right? Okay. You want to go and sell. You've believed that there's a market for this idea, right? Where do you begin, right?
Yeah.
Do you go and raise the capital first, right? And buy machinery? Do you find a manufacturer and get him to co-manufacture for you? Right, so you have all these questions.
Yeah.
I started where I was, which was broke, no money.
But like
right?
a lot of people.
And literally just 750 quid to my name.
Wow.
Right, and what I did with that 750 quid was that I went and bought a second-hand freezer of Gumtree, a chest freezer, because you could take the cookie dough out the boxes, and put them in bags. You can actually fill more, right? Went with my brother-in-law, borrowed my sister's car because it wouldn't fit in my car, right? Bought this freezer, right, for 40 quid.
I want to know what car your sister drives, because that's a big fridge.
It was a
chest freezer.
You know what? She
it's
actually,
either a van.
No, she had an SUV. She had a RAV4, and we sort of squeezed it in, right? Okay, we asked the
This is brilliant.
right.
How can you squeeze a chest freezer in?
We had to light it down. I had to tell the seller, right? She was a sister who was moving to the UAE. I had to tell her, I tell her, sister, could you do me a favor? Can you disconnect it?
Yeah.
And can you like take all the water out? She goes, what do you mean take all the water out? So I said, you know when it defrosts, right? There's going to be a load of water at the bottom.
Yeah.
Can you just tip it to the side? She goes, look, what I'll do is I'll give you some towels and I'll bring you outside and you do the rest.
Yeah.
So literally, we've turned up to this place. And there's this freezer, which, by the way, it was partly broken because the lid wouldn't stay up. It dropped down because the hinges were broken. But it's 40 quid and it worked. And we literally just tipped it, took the towels, we dried it inside, and we said Bismillah, and we pushed it in the back of my sister's RAV4. We got it back, took it to the shed in the back of Mum and Dad's garden that has electricity to it, fired it up, and I called my supplier who used to drop me cookie dough. And it was really funny because you had this big Arctic lorry turning up
At your house.
outside my house, which is in Walsall Green, right? and and the drivers would be there, and at times I would be at work at that time, and my mum would phone me and she would say, oh yeah, there's a man here in a high-vis holding some boxes. What have you ordered? I go, Mum, take them there and just leave them there. And I would literally run from my job at that time during my lunch because I didn't want my mum to pick up the boxes.
Yeah.
And pick the boxes and put them in the freezer so they wouldn't basically defrost.
Yeah.
And that's how I started from, and I used the rest of the funds. I had a friend of a friend who did websites. I said, look, just make a landing page for me.
Yeah.
Print some business cards for me. That's all I need.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. I bought a invoice copy pad from, Ahmed Supermarket on Hogmore Road.
Yeah.
Right? From there. Right? Okay. For $1.99 or something. And I went knocking the door of every dessert parlor that I could, even some of the big ones, and trying to sell my product to them and learning. And I learned so much during that first year whilst I was doing that part-time and still had a job.
Yeah.
Right? And that's
Because I suppose that it worked kind of well for you because daytime, you're doing your daytime job. And most of these places open in the evening anyway.
Yeah.
So it kind of worked out all right for you. You didn't have to give up your day job.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, the thing was I was making good money with it. I was making like about £1,200 to £1,500 a month on top of what I was earning in my job. Excuse me. So it gave me the confidence to actually go for this idea and leave my job at the time, which I left.
What were you working at?
So I went from being a medical sales rep,
Okay.
selling spinal implants,
That's
leaving that because I wanted to start this business, but I needed a job in the midterm, and working as a fundraising manager for a Muslim charity. So I was doing that while selling cookie dough at the same time.
That's brilliant. Did you take any cookie dough to your?
The charity guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would take it to some of the volunteers and some of the staff members, and I'd ask them to try it. They were all my guinea pigs. Them, family, friends.
All of them. Anyone who's put weight on, it's all because of it.
Yeah, it's all because of me.
So how did you decide on the recipes? Did you experiment for a long time before landing the final flavors?
So when I was in Entrepreneurial Spark,
Yeah.
I contacted a reputable food manufacturing company in Evesham, and I asked them would they be interested in co-manufacturing the product, because the easiest way was to get someone else to make it.
Yeah.
They'll stick my labels on it. I'll store it somewhere, and then I'll sell it. So I'll have an office and I'll have sales team. I mean, that was the common sense way of doing it. As I found out in business, and I'm sure you found this out in your business journey as well, a lot of the time things that seem straightforward aren't that straightforward, and there's a lot of moments where you have to pivot and a lot of obstacles that you come across. So when I sat down with this company, the short answer was no, we're not going to manufacture for you. I asked why. Oh, because the minimum order quantity is 250,000 units per flavour. You want to do these 6 flavours, so unless you're going to commit to this volume and pay, by the way, pay us upfront, at least half of what the total cost is going to be, we're not going to basically entertain you. However, we can sell you a premix that you can
do yourself.
and we'll tell you how to do it. And I thought, great. So then what I did was I actually took out a business loan. Virgin was doing something called Virgin Startups at the time. And I took a business loan from them. I found a cheap property to rent from the Birmingham Council Properties, and off I went. And I worked with that company, with their premix, and just me literally using whatever culinary skills I had, adapting, changing that recipe day to day until I believed that it was ready to actually go out.
So how did you believe that, you know what, this is what I want? Because it's a very, you might like it, I might not like it, 10 people might not like it, but 2 people like it. So it's a very hit and a misses, isn't it?
It is. I mean, the thing was, it was very difficult going into a lot of these places and saying, hey, buy my cookie dough. Because the answer was, well, hold on, our cookie dough is our best-selling line. In most dessert parlours, the top-selling products are cookie dough, waffles, and cakes, and usually that order. That's how it works, right? So for someone to basically change their cookie dough supply is a big thing, right? Because they may change it, and as you said, customers are, well, you've changed your cookie dough, why have you done that for? So what I did was, my angle was to start with flavours that they weren't selling. So I went in with red velvet, I went in with chocolate orange, I went with strawberries and cream. And I said, would you like to add these flavours? Because what I realised was one of the recurring problems every dessert parlour had was that they had products, their menu was kind of, it was stale, right?
Standard,
and
everywhere same.
Exactly, and the product that they were using wasn't actually made to be part baked as a dessert. It was made for bakeries to bake off as a full-blown cookie. And I realised that there was a difference in the product, and there should be a difference. A cookie dough dessert should be something which is light and fluffy, doesn't stick to the pan or the plate, and is still edible for about 25 minutes. Not within 10 minutes, the moment you put ice cream on, it's sticking to the bottom of the plate, and it's like a warmed up cookie, which a lot of these places
I'll be the judge of that, because you've bought some.
I bought some cookies for you,
We'll be the judge of that, all right?
Yeah.
So now, after all of this success, now you've got your own store, right? Is that your first store?
It is the first store, yeah.
That's the first store. And
there's an interesting story behind that as well.
Why Grand Central? Because that is a prime spot. I mean, we've got a store there, the Burger and Sauce.
Yeah.
You probably know my younger brother.
I met him, yeah.
Have you met him?
Yeah, he came down for a cookie.
Oh,
he liked it, so yeah.
He doesn't know anything about cookies. No, that's what I was going to say. If you haven't met him, he's there.
Yeah.
Because obviously our relationship, for people that don't know, goes way back.
Yeah.
To just this. In fact, surprising that it's you. Because we've known each other from the mosque days, we used to go mosque together.
30 years ago.
Yeah, about 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really, and it's, I always say, it's really nice to meet people after so many decades and they're actually doing really well in life.
Alhamdulillah.
And it's really, really nice to see that, because you know what? In this day and age, anyone could be anywhere. You could be in prison, you could be on streets, you could be just a bum.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see people actually. I've met my schoolmates after 25 years, and they all mashallah are doing really, really well in everything they families, children, jobs, businesses. And it's so nice to see. And we were all there. Yeah. Not one of us was like missing. Yeah. And it was just really, really nice, man. So that's a plug out for them. We've got a group, but no one talks in that group, unfortunately. I don't know if they don't like us or they're just super busy. I don't know. But anyways, Grand Central, how did that come about? Because that's a big jump. Usually people start off with smaller stores. They want to test the market, see what the sketch is. Yeah. And then probably third or fourth store, they'll go with a bigger. So what you chose the first, you went straight in.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is we've been in business for 10 years, right, as a manufacturer. Because what we were doing in the back were manufacturing cookie dough and supplying to the dessert scene.
So that then it did.
And we were not only in the UK, but even in Italy, we will send containers with like Denmark starting soon.
Serious?
So it's a proper operation. So being a supplier to a lot of these independent cookie shops and cookie stores, I've seen bakers take their business from their kitchen to the high street and open multiple stores. And it's been a proud moment being a supplier to such businesses as well. What actually happened was that I had an idea about opening a cookie store and having somewhat of a revolution within the cookie market within the UK. Back in 2010, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And then through the friends and the network that I have, I was able to sit down and have this conversation with people who, the plan was to actually get into some of the service stations of the guys that actually own Asda now, Euro garages.
Yeah.
So although we didn't sit down with the Euro garages themselves, but I knew someone who was very close to them, and we were having conversations about how this would work as a pop-up. And everything was set to actually finally meet the Issa brothers, and COVID hit. And business changed. We became really busy. We did our best year in 2020.
Takeaways,
right?
suppliers, they smashed it.
So at that point, I outgrew the unit that I was in and had to find a bigger unit and find more industrial machinery. So I had that challenge, and we sort of shelved the idea of actually opening a cookie store. But it was there, and I could see what was happening in the States, because the way UK food trends are, is we're usually a decade or so behind the Yanks.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, something kicks off there first, and then later on it kicks off here. So everything that you're seeing even in the dessert market now, except the Dubai viral, which obviously came from Dubai, like Matilda cake, for example, the Yanks have been eating that for years, right? Cookie dough, you go to America and there's aisles filled with cookie dough in your retail shops that you can buy chilled cookie dough, frozen cookie dough. So we usually copy their trends when it comes to food. So I was seeing what was happening with the cookie shops there, particularly one in particular, a massive brand in America. I saw what they were doing. I saw how easily they were doing it, and I knew that, okay, I could do this and probably do a bit better to cater for the British palate.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had an interesting interaction with a reputable retail brand. I won't mention their name on camera, but I'll tell you afterwards, right? Just because I don't want to get into trouble. But
I'll tell you guys afterwards.
They came. In fact, I'll tell you, right? Okay, right? Sake. Right, this will be a soundbite for your viewers as well.
Yeah.
It was Krispy Kreme, right?
Krispy Kreme.
The donuts.
Oh, okay.
So Krispy Kreme, what they did was they bought a stake in an American company called Insomnia Cookies, paid something stupid like $200 million, right, to buy the UK and European rights. They came to us through an ingredient supplier who said that, look, there's a bit of white labeling manufacturing if you're interested. It's a reputable brand. Would you be up for it? I said, sure, we'll look at it. Sat down, it was Krispy Kreme. And they were like, look, we bought this company. I knew who the company was because I'd been following them on Instagram for years. And we're going to bring it to the UK. And we can't bring the product that's being supplied in the States over because of the GMOs that's in the food, the colorings, etc. So we need someone who's going to manufacture in the UK. Could you do it? Sure. Anyway, we agreed with everything. We updated our machinery because organically our business was growing. So we knew that in order to cater for them, we're going to need to have more industrial machinery. Plus the inclusions were really big. And not to bore you with how cookie dough is made, but you have gear systems and you have depositing vacuum systems that are deposited through corkscrew or through compression pressure. So if you want to get big inclusions that don't get broken into your cookies like nuts or M&Ms or big chocolate chunks, you have to go for the extrusion system, which is done through a compressor. You can't go for a gear system because if you imagine a gear, there's two gears like this and the dough is put from the top. Any large bits of chocolate, they're just going to basically spin on top of the gears. They're not going to go through.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right?
I understand.
So
it has to go through...
So basically it goes through a hopper into a vacuum system, and then that gets pushed through screws, and then it goes through a guillotine and gets cut, right? Okay. And we just got the contract with Italy at that time. We were sending 33 pallets every month. Wow. That wasn't working on our two machines that we had, so we needed to upgrade regardless. So everything was okay. We agreed on the volume. They wanted us to do 13 different flavors or whatnot. Long story short, the guy that was running the project at the time, an absolute, can't swear and I won't swear, but absolute idiot, imbecile, rubbed me off the wrong way. It went from being a partnership to feeling like a dictatorship. And then the day before we were going to produce for them, I pulled the plug on the whole thing. They were shocked. They couldn't believe that, probably in their mind, an Asian guy from Bordesley Green, right, is saying no to us.
Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. And I remember at the time they created a UK office for that company right? So let's just call it Bob's Cookies UK.
Yeah.
And Bob's Cookies UK had hired a MD for Bob's Cookies, who wasn't the guy that I was dealing with from Krispy Kreme. So the MD said, look, we'll kick, the other guy off the project. You run the show, we'll dance to your tune. Would you manufacture for us? I said, no. They said, why? I go, because I'm going to do what you're doing, but I'm going to do better than you.
Oh, shit.
And that's how the store started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a big jump. So how did your family or your partners or anything in the business said, hang on, what are you doing?
I think they know me, and they know that, and I mean, you may differ with this, but people always say to me, what do you need to succeed in business? And I always say balls. You need balls.
Yeah.
Right? I've always backed myself. Even as a young kid, I always had the supreme confidence in myself. And I always believed that, okay, there's three voices each individual has. There's what your head says, there's what your heart says, and then what your gut says. Right? And, my father, God rest his soul, he always said that, listen to your bed, listen to your gut, because your gut doesn't lie.
Yeah.
My gut feeling was, okay, we'll probably manufacture for about a year until we build their volumes up. They're Krispy Kreme. They've got like 15 or 16 donut manufacturing sites across the country. How hard is it for them to set up a cookie manufacturing site?
Yeah.
Then eventually they're going to give us the boot, right?
Yeah.
So what's the point, right? Why not take that plunge? Why can't we do it ourselves?
True.
Right?
You're in the business anyway.
Exactly.
Before them.
Exactly. So we, at that point, with the staff and with my managers, we had a conversation, and I said, look, this is what I want to do. What do you reckon? They said, go for it. I said, yeah. I said, well, didn't need validation, but yeah, thank you.
I was just making sure. So then Grand Central.
Yeah. So through a friend who said, look, call this agent. He's a really good agent. He'll get you. He gets offers on good spots where you're looking at. I had a vision for the brand, what I wanted the brand to be. I didn't want to open something with no disrespect to anyone. Obviously, I'm from these areas, but I didn't want to open something. I didn't want to be a shop on Coventry Road.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a
There's no vision. That's no vision.
Right. Because what's going to happen, right? You're going to open one thing, then because you're across the road, he's going to basically open the same thing. Yeah. Right, okay, because you can see people, and this is the one thing that makes me sick about our community. When one guy opens a business, rather than supporting him, we like to see how many morsels of food can we take out of his mouth.
Absolutely.
Right, and I can't stand that. You never see that in any other demographic of people apart from Pakistani people. Right, and it's why we haven't grown. Right, it's why we haven't come out with brands that are household names. Right, and the ones the ones who have, they've kind of walked away from our community.
Yeah.
Right, because it's so difficult to work with our people. So I had a vision, and I thought, okay, this needs to be in a high footfall mall, and we need to open it and leave no expense unturned. Like literally whatever from the fit out to the colors to the design, everything has to look
the part.
Because
if you're going to be in those areas, you can't be 50-50.
No,
it has to be 100%.
100%. Yeah.
And then you got all of that. You got the design work.
Got the design work done. And then we said Bismillah, and it was even the opening of the shop. There was so many. Grand Central had given us designs. Those designs weren't accurate. The designers had designed the shop according to those designs. The fitters went in there, phoned me and said, look, your designs are no good. We're going to have to shuffle things around because the shop is smaller than what's on the designs. It's going to add 2 weeks, or it's going to add a week actually. They ended up taking 3 weeks to do the work. We should have been in the store testing the recipe and manufacturing for at least 2 weeks before we opened the shop. That never happened. We had builders in there until the day before the opening.
Typical.
Right. The idea for the store was that we were going to mix the dough fresh in the store, and we were going to bake the cookies. We found out, we got everyone out at 5 p.m. the day before. right?
All the builders.
We cleaned up as much as we could.
Yeah.
We're opening the next morning, by the way. 12 o'clock,
Yeah.
right? And we realized within 3 hours that we can't actually mix the dough here. There's not enough space. Operationally, it won't work.
Who did the design work? Like, who did the measurements? Because you can get everything on plans.
But, looking back at it, I was a bit naive on myself because I thought, oh, well, small mixer, I just need a table space and whatnot. But when you're doing the volumes that you're doing, right, you're not selling, by the way, on an average day, we sell anywhere between 500 to 700 cookies. That's a quiet day. On a busy day, it's 1,000 cookies. Right, okay? So if you do the maths, how are you going to make that in such a small place?
Yeah.
Right, okay? It's impossible.
You need
Right,
a lot of
okay?
space, yeah.
But we would have realised that had we got into the store and done our testing when we wanted to.
True.
Right, okay? We had the pressure from Grand Central that you have to open. This is your date. You can't, you know what they're like, right, okay? You have to open on this day, right? So, 11 o'clock in the night, I phoned my factory manager. I said, where are you? He says, I'm in bed. I go, get out. Meet me at the factory. My partner of the store and his son and my manager, we met because we had bought the ingredients that we had bought were for the mixer that we had at the shop, which was a 10-litre mixer. The one we have in the factory is 100-litre. So you can't,
No.
have you got enough egg? Have you got enough sugar? Whatnot.
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
so I had to sit there for an hour, figure out a new recipe for the cookies, right? And we figured it out at like, I think 12:30 in 1 o'clock in the morning, and then we made a mix. We baked it. Okay, we're not really happy with it, but it's as good as that we're gonna get because we have to open the store. 2 o'clock, everyone went home. 7:30, we all met at the factory. We done the mixing. We made the pucks with our hands because we couldn't put it through the machine because it wasn't enough dough. We packed everything. We went to Grand Central and we said Bismillah and we opened.
Wow. That is, I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. And, because it's the challenges, isn't it? That now you look back at it, you think, wow.
Yeah.
And if you never done that, that would have been just like, you wouldn't experience it. Now, obviously, going through to the next door and the next door, you know what to expect and how much space you need.
And subhanAllah, it says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his wisdom is the supreme. Allah works in mysterious ways.
Absolutely.
Had we tried to mix the product in the store, it wouldn't have worked. Impossible. Labor costs, operational costs, the room for error.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's being made in the factory in a quality controlled environment where we can basically be consistently making the product the way it needs to be made, and we just freeze it, and operationally all the staff does is takes it out the freezer, puts it on the trays, bakes it off, lets it cool, puts it in the packets when people come, the boxes, and serves them. You make it donkey proof.
Yeah.
Right, okay?
That's a successful business.
That's a successful system.
Yeah.
Right, it's why McDonald's grew exponentially. It wasn't so much the product, it was the system that they had.
Yeah.
Right, and they were able to replicate that system wherever they went. Right, okay? That's the success behind the business. If you nail down a system, then the business will prosper as a result of the system.
Exactly. 100%. So, the market, the cookie market is very competitive. So what sets Sweet Joe's apart from the other brands?
Mind the pun, but firstly, the proof is in the pudding.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay? With any product.
Proof's in the cookie, you mean, not the pudding. Yeah.
Right. in any food product, we'll scratch that. In any product, whether it's a service, whether you're selling deodorant, it's got to do what you're claiming.
Yeah.
Right, okay? Right?
Yeah.
Then there's got to be a need for it as well. Right, okay? And there's got to be some wiggle room. There's got to be some room for you to actually grow within that. What I saw with the cookie market was, if you say to the average Brit, name me a cookie brand, mostly people will say Millie's. Right? Our age people will say Millie's, because Millie's was our age. Okay, but what is Millie's? Millie's is a flat, nice but flat cookie.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, it hasn't really evolved. Right, and if you look at it as a business case, they had 120 odd shops in 2006. They only have 40 odd locations now.
Wow.
Right, so it's a recessing brand. Right, you have a lot of home bakers that are baking off and they become famous through Instagram or TikTok, but you don't have a high street chain which is known for, okay, like we have high street chains that are known for burgers, or we have high street chains that are known for their peri-peri chicken, like Pepe's, for example, right? Okay, but we don't have a high street chain that's known for their cookies, right? And as I said, we're always about 10 odd years behind the Yanks, and I could see the movement in the market. So our cookie isn't a normal cookie. You've got the crisp of a cookie, you've got the texture of a scone inside, right? And then the end bite is a bit more cookie-like.
Oh, I can't wait to try them, you know.
Right, okay.
I think it sold me that box already.
So, and then the other thing was that, okay, we thought what we'll do is we'll have 8 flavors on our menu. 4 are what we call our set cooking menus, which is your chocolate chunk, white chocolate chunk, chocolate fudge cake, which people call the double, and chocolate chunk with walnut. That's our staple. And then 4 we will alternate every 2 weeks. And we'll call that the cookie drop, right? And I think that it's that intrigue of what flavor's dropping now, right?
See, that's very important. Keep it, you know, bringing something new to the table.
Of course. And asking your target consumers and your customers, what cookie do you want me to see? Do you want me to make? Do you want a Kanafa cookie? Do you want a Milky Bar cookie? Do you want a Mars cookie? What cookie do you want? Right, okay, and actually then making that for them, but with our own twist.
That's it. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
And moving on to motivation and mindset now, right? Because nowadays a lot of people are talking about the motivation, the mindset, and all this blah, da, 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 da. You know, on Instagram, you go there, you got 110 influencers is talking about motivation and mindset. You need to do this, you need to have this. And so I want to know what drives you to keep going even when things get tough.
So, okay. So I'm going to go a bit personal here.
Yep.
I don't usually do this, but
Thank you very much, sir.
I think it's important. My motivation is my pain in life and experiences that I've been through. See, every individual is driven by different things, okay? I'm driven by competition. I've got a chip on my shoulder to prove people wrong.
Which is a good thing.
And I like
that.
Yeah, I like going against the grain. And I look at the losses of life and what they taught me, right? So I come from a big family, right? There was initially 10 of us, right? Being the only son and having sisters, being the youngest. My father, he worked very hard. As most Pakistanis, he was a financial immigrant, an economical immigrant, you could say. They come to this country to earn a living.
Yeah.
And interestingly, he worked in a bakery as well, and now his son owns one. So, you know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It's, there's some truth in that, as they say.
Absolutely.
But then by the age of 21, I'd gone through certain experiences, like my brother had passed away. I'd seen 2 of my sisters passing away. So having lost 3 siblings, the last of which died in 2007, she was 23, and they were all disabled.
Wow.
So I remember during her burial, I was having a moment with her. So I told my friends to just give me some time. We've just buried her. And I remember saying to her, promising her at that moment that I'm going to do something great with my life. Like that was a moment for me that whenever I struggled, I go back to that moment when I'm sitting by her grave and I'm saying, okay, you made a promise to her, you can't let yourself down. You can't let her down. Right? And that's been my motivation. Right? Your motivation has to be your personal experiences. If it's, okay, the other person can make you think, right? But if you're motivated by someone behind a screen and your only motivation is to be like them, then you're not going to make it. You're going to run out of steam. It has to be something more deep within you. Right? Because any entrepreneur is going to tell you, one of the things that come with being an entrepreneur is being financially broke a lot of the times. People think you got money, but your money's tied in assets. Yeah. Right, okay? Being alone. Right? You know, linking your friends. Right? I mean, I'm 39. I got married in June last year.
Did you? Oh,
Alhamdulillah. And one of the reasons why I put it off was from 2015 up until now, I was just dedicated to my business. I wasn't financially in a position to support a wife and support a family, and that's a risk and a decision that I made. Yeah. Right? So then you've got your life on hold, and that has to motivate you as well. Yeah. Right? And you got people depending upon you right? As well as people saying, told him not to do it.
See, that's the thing that really, really, really bothers me. And I bet you now the same people expect free stuff.
I mean, you know what? I was looking in the sense that, and that's that the people who were saying that to me were actually good friends, and they're meant well, right? Because they said, look, you're 30 years old. You need to think about getting married. You need to basically get a job and sustain your family. You've struggled to get a job.
Yeah.
You've already had one business failure. You're going to go into cookie dough. And you got to understand something. It's not your stereotypical business idea from amongst our demographic of people. By that, I mean your Indian, Pakistani people, right? Usually, okay, I'm going to open a shop.
Yeah.
Right, okay? I'm going to open a takeaway. I'm going to do a dessert bar. I'm opening a unit where I'm going to manufacture stuff.
Yeah, it's a different level,
like
it's
what
a
the hell?
level.
Like, who does that? Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people spoke from their perspective of ignorance because they didn't really understand what I was doing. They couldn't understand the vision, right? Yeah. Also, they knew that because I was like, strong-minded. As a result, there's no point telling me not to do something. The more you're going to tell me not to do it, I'll do it even more. Because that's the way I operate. So
don't ever bring cookies here again. Don't ever bring a packet of 6 cookies here ever again.
Reverse psychology.
Tomorrow's going to turn up with a bag of 12.
So yeah, I mean, that was my motivation in a nutshell.
So have you ever doubted, we have a moment of doubt, and how did you overcome that?
Every day. Every day we doubt ourselves. Every day we look at ourselves and think, did we make the right decision? Am I just setting myself up for failure? You look in the mirror and you think, shit.
But are you scared of failure?
No, I'm driven by it. That's the difference. And here's the thing. Being scared of failure isn't a bad thing. Right? You know what? To pinch a line of Cousin D'Amato, who was the mentor of Mike Tyson, he said, what's the difference between fear, between a coward and a hero? They both experience fear, but it's what the hero does with that fear that makes him a hero, and it's what the coward does with that fear that makes him a coward.
True.
Right? So being scared, doubting yourself, thinking it's not going to work, there's nothing wrong with that. But what's important is and there's a narration in our deen, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that wisdom is when you learn from the experiences of others. So it's finding people who have done what you've done and speaking to them and saying, this is what I want to do. Not too many people, because then it just becomes too many voices.
Yeah.
But basically
the right people.
And getting them to mentor you.
Yeah.
Right? And you'll be surprised how many people are open for you to actually, pick their brains.
Yeah, absolutely. That leads to my next question is, do you have any mentors or role models who influenced your journey?
I have a few. One of my early mentors was, the chap who you mentioned, Joe Trodden. Right? Okay? Because eventually I got kicked off that whole program. Right? Okay? Right? And he said to me, and his last words were that, look, you're going to do well. Whether this is the business or not, I don't know. But you'll do well with yourself because I can see it in you. But yeah, I mean, some mentors I actually disagree with. We argue with, we bump heads with them, and they'll tell me, no, Ammar, you need to do your business like this. I'm like, no, I disagree with you because I want to do it like this. And that's the beauty of it. Me and you can talk, and we don't have to agree on everything.
Yeah.
But the very fact that we'll have a conversation and intellectually challenge ourselves. Aristotle said something beautiful. He says, the mark of an intelligent man is his ability to entertain an idea intellectually without feeling compelled to accept it. Right? Me and you can talk about business, fitness, life, whatever. You can have a viewpoint, I can have a viewpoint. You'll learn something off me. I'll learn something off you. Or you'll challenge me and you'll think, you know what he's saying is completely BS. But the important thing is we had that conversation.
Start having that conversation.
Right?
Yeah.
Because somewhere down the line, I will pick your brains on something. Right? And you can save me from making a financial error, a stupid decision. But I wouldn't have basically had that opportunity of speaking to you and getting that golden nugget of advice unless we had the prior conversation.
Disagreement or agreement.
Yeah.
So what would you say to people who are very stuck in their ways and literally not even talk to someone or not have a healthy discussion. Like you said, we spoke, we might have disagreed, but it's still that healthy discussion, right?
Yeah.
So there's people out there who don't have that. So what would you say to those people?
You're gearing yourself up for repetitive failure, not just in business but in life. I know people like that. Look, Nas, your ability to succeed in life is directly connected to your ability and your openness of accepting advice of people. I'll repeat that again. Your ability to succeed in life is directly connected to your openness of accepting advice of people. There's a saying that you listen to your elders. It's not because they're always right, but they've got more experience of being wrong. That's just an example, because they've made more mistakes than you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can learn a lot more from people's mistakes than you can from people's failures.
Absolutely.
And I think that if you're going to close yourself to the world and you're going to think, okay, it's what I have in my mind, and I'm not going to speak to anyone, I'm not going to discuss it with anyone, then you're depriving yourself of some of the greatest pieces of advice that could save you from a lot of headache, heartache, financial problems, you name it.
100%. Now, the future vision for Sweet Joe's in the next 5 years, what do you see? Expansion, franchising, or any new line of products?
All of them.
All of them.
Everything that you've said.
Fantastic.
I'll tell you, two of the greatest compliments I've had in my business is that, number one, when I'm there, and my partner who's from India, he used to work for me, Aftab Bhai, when he's there, and people come up to us and say, are you halal? And he gets angry. And I say, no. Don't get angry. It's beautiful that they're asking that. And then I have to explain to him that the reason why they're asking that is because they think, because of the way the shop looks, that this is done to that level that it can't be a Muslim. It can't be a Pakistani behind this.
Yeah.
Right, okay, right?
It's a compliment and come on, it's a compliment.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
okay. And the second compliment we get is, are you a franchise? Is this your only store?
Yeah.
Right? When people are asking you those two questions, it shows that you've done something right.
Something right, yeah.
We've had people message us from all parts of the country, the world. We've had people messaging us from Egypt, people messaging us from Pakistan, people messaging us from Saudi.
It's a nice name. The name just rings a bell. Sweet Joe's.
Look, you own some franchises, so you've got experience in running franchises. What are the two things as a franchisee that you want? You want a low barrier to entry financially.
Yeah.
Right. And you want it to be operationally easy.
Easy, yeah. Like it says, donkey proof.
Right, okay. When you got those two things, and then good marketing happening, good branding happening.
It's a win-win, isn't it?
It's a win-win. So we've had a lot of people contact us and say that, are you doing franchises? But, I believe that ultimately you've got to be fair in life. And what we want to do is open at least about 3 stores ourselves.
Yeah.
Until we've got the financial blueprint. And then we can lay that in front of people. And then when we put a price next to the brand, we've justified why we put that price.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you have to. It has to be.
Yeah.
And plus, there's you got supply chain.
Yeah.
There's so many errors that happen.
Yeah.
Because I was talking to a friend of mine and he's got one store and he wants to franchise. I says, you're too early. Yeah. Because you don't know what the supply chain is like. Issues, problems here and there. It's shortage. Because once it's all good and fair, but people want to know if you're franchised. But when someone has parted with, say, 250 grand, there's no time, there's no room for mess ups. Yeah. You can't tell that person, oh, we're just still trying.
Yeah. Or give it 6 months.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't work like that.
So you need about 3-4 stores of your own. Yeah. Run them through within the family, whatever, fine. If you don't want to have your own, have your cousins or brothers run those stores.
Sure.
And that's when you will know what's working, what's not working. Which supplier is good, which supplier isn't good.
As you said, the back end has to be
There's no room for negotiation at that time. Because if I've given you 250 or 300 grand, I expect everything to be on point.
Yeah.
You can't turn around to me at that time and say, oh, you're just a second store. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that, yeah, 100%.
So I had to talk him out of that. You know, again, he was disagreeing first, but then he kind of came to his senses and he's like, actually, you know what, you're right. Says, I know I'm right because I've been doing it for like 12, 13 years now, you know.
Again, a lot of people, I've had it with me, with a lot of my friends come to me, I want to open a dessert bar. And I say to them, don't do it. Why? Because I supply them. I see how many go out in business every month. I see how many clothes, how many sell. Right? Some reputable brands are selling, right? Where franchisees have paid around the figure that you've mentioned.
Yeah.
And they've sold it for a fourth of that.
Yeah, exactly, because they want to get out of it.
Right? Okay, but they have to get rid of it as a franchise, and someone has to buy it as that franchise. Because they can't take the it's not like you're going to take a label off and put another label on. It doesn't work like that, right? So, you're absolutely right. The back end has to be super tight.
Super tight. So, if you could collaborate with any brand or celebrity to promote Sweet Joe's, who would it be and why?
Huh?
Fitpod.
Okay, that's a good
That's a good question. I think with the way our industry and our product is, it would be nice to collaborate with an established chocolate bar. Like don't get me wrong, we put Oreo in a cookie, or we will put Nutella in a cookie, but to actually have Nutella say, look, we want to collaborate with you.
Yeah.
Right, we want you to make a cookie for us.
Okay, so what about a celebrity?
So my product is a product that's fun. I like one of the things that if you said to me what kind of emotions you want to feel, or you want a consumer to feel when he eats a Sweet Joe's product, I would say that if they're a millennial like myself, then I'd like them to be in a position where when they're eating our product, it brings their inner child out. Right, okay? Reminds them of the fun times, right? When they never had to worry about the percentage of body fat they're carrying, right? Or how many carbs they've consumed in the day, right? Okay?
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, anyone that really sort of caters for that, I mean, for example, Stormzy, I'd love Stormzy, right, to collaborate and be a part of our brand.
Brilliant. So my last question. What advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who want to start their own food business?
Start. Right? I remember I picked up a book once in Birmingham Central Library. And I was printing, because you can access market reports there for free. So I was printing one out actually. And there's a queue. So I thought, let me just go grab a coffee and hopefully the queue will die down and then I'll press print. I happened to walk past a bookshelf and it was Richard Branson's book. And I picked it up and read the back of it. And on the back of it, it said was, the business journey is this, that you take a dive off the cliff and you learn to fly on the way down. That was all I needed from that book. I put that book back.
Thank you very much, Mr. Branson.
Yeah.
Sorry I couldn't pay for the book, but I got my message.
Got the message. So I think that as an entrepreneur, just start. Start where you are. Stop looking for the perfect opportunity, or I need to do this. If you really need to do it and you want to do it, then do it. But I do have an opinion, and I'd like to know your position on this. I believe entrepreneurs are born. I don't believe they're created. I believe that you either have an individual that has the propensity, the ability and the capability to become an entrepreneur, and they can harness, or she can harness and enhance that.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't think you could take an average individual and just think about the headache and the stresses that you've been through your
100%.
business. You can't make someone ready for that.
No, because there's more headaches than success.
100%.
There's more losses than profits.
Yeah.
And can you actually process that loss and be normal?
Yeah. Can you deal with the stress?
Not a lot of people can.
I mean, I'm sure, there's been times where I've paid my staff, haven't paid myself.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
standard.
Okay.
Because that staff is the one that's going to carry on.
They're your engine, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But when you got bills to pay, you got mortgage, you got kids, and you need that check coming in month to month, then business isn't for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Sometimes, even I think, honest to God, sometimes I think, 9 to 5 is so much. It's a blessing. Go, work, get paid, switch off.
Yeah. Switch your phone off on the weekends, right? I mean, I was late today. You said why? And I said I was fixing the fridge.
But you compensated with the cookies.
Right, I came
So-
with gifts.
We're going to try the cookies before we finish.
Let's do that.
Z, come on, bro. Let's give. This is not no Google review, man. This is honest face-to-face review, man. Right, first of all, branding. Here we go. Okay. Sweet Joe's. Okay, I've got one thing on the branding, if I may.
Go on.
You know this cookie? Change it into like a cartoony kind of vibe.
You reckon? So,
Yes.
See, we did that first, and you know what happened? The brand looked a bit too cartoony, right? So then, with the focus groups that we did at the time,
Yeah.
what came out was how can we make it a bit more
Appealing?
and non-childish, right? And that's why we went with a real dough ball. I paid a lot of money for that, Nas, right? For that photography, that's actually a dough ball.
Yeah, okay. But I think it needs to be sharper then. It's slightly blurry.
Yeah, it could be.
I'm just saying that because from my graphic design background and photography background, that's all.
Yeah. No, what he wants is me to come to him and say, Nas, can you do our designing for us? Yeah. Sit it rock now.
Maybe. Okay. Oh, wow.
Do you want me to take you through the flavors that I've got for you?
Yes, sir. Okay. Right then. Here we are, Sweet Joe's.
So,
In the Fitpod studios, it's all about health, fitness, and nutrition.
yeah.
Not today. It's a day off today.
So,
So,
we've got your chocolate chunk with walnuts,
yeah,
right? That's one of my favorite flavors.
yeah.
Right.
Can we see?
Do you want to tilt it down a bit, right? Then you've got your white chocolate,
Yeah.
chocolate M&Ms, chocolate fudge cake, white chocolate raspberry, and Snickers cookie pie.
Salma. Oh, which is your mod bestseller?
So they obviously they alternate based upon what flavors we have. I mean, there was a time when we did a Kinderella one, right? We had Kinder chocolate and that just went crazy. Red velvet is always a good seller. My personal favorite, right, of the set menu is this one because I love walnuts and I think that the walnut texture with the chocolate chunk of the cookie, plus you're a guy who loves fitness, so it's extra protein for you as well, right?
I don't think my PT is going to agree with that, but never mind. It's a Sunday today. Wow. Can you switch the cameras off now? Enjoy it.
Not overly sweet.
Not sweet at all.
Yeah. So that was it's almost like eating a peri peri chicken, right? Okay, you know some people they love the extreme,
Yeah.
right? When you have extreme sauce on there, what are you tasting? Right? So one of the things that I found in desserts was that they're so much laden with sugar that you never get to taste textures and the actual appreciate the bite, right? So me, I love that same cookie that you're having. I love it with a cold glass of milk. Dunk it in there.
What about if it's warm?
Warm, again, I love a warm cookie as well. But I actually think that you either fit into one or two categories. If you love them warm, it's like more like a cookie dough, right? And if you like them cold, then it's a proper cookie.
This is not sweet at all.
Yeah.
And this is a problem. Because when something is not sweet and it has sugar in it, you will start eating and you won't stop.
Okay. The next one I want you to have a bit of, right? Because I know that judging by that picture over there with your 8-pack, right? You're not someone that indulges in sweet treats. Try the chocolate fudge cake one, right? It's a cross between a cookie and a brownie.
Okay, cookie and a brownie.
Yeah. Okay.
So
It's we use one of the best types of cocoa that you can get to create this flavor. And the reason we call it chocolate fudge cake is that the flavor is trying to mimic a chocolate fudge cake.
Z, have it, bro.
No, it's all you, bro. You're on camera.
So that's more cocoa-y and richy, Do you understand? It's not
It's heavy.
sickly. It's not
No.
sickly sweet.
It's heavily on the chocolate, but it's nice. It's
Yeah.
like you said, it's not overly done.
Yeah. Then you get the bite of the chocolate inclusions in there as well. And it complements the softness of the cookie.
So how did you come up with this, man?
Yeah. It's
You
having
know,
that-
this guy in the mosque, he was a quiet one, you know. I'm telling you, it's always the quiet ones.
It comes in good use sometimes. The daydreaming. I used to be a daydreamer as well.
You stayed in dreaming.
Yeah. This is my dream.
Oh, is that what you were dreaming about me? That's very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice of you.
Of course it is.
Warm them up when you get home. Give them to the missus. No more than 20 seconds. Don't warm this one up because it'll pour
Yeah.
up from the top, and that one as well. But we can warm these up. That can be warmed up a bit as well. And yeah, man.
Oh, these are beautiful, man. Honestly, I'm not just saying that. But they're just so right. You know, like I said, they're not sickly over sugary.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing I hate when it's too rich. That rich chocolate.
You know, it's like
Look at Tilda cake. I hate that.
so you like the first 2 spoons of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
By the third spoon, you're done.
Yes.
Right. Okay. I mean, I feel the same about kanafa. Right. I don't.
I don't know what
So we
the
have
fuss is about.
The 2 cubes maybe.
Right. That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. You have more than that. It's just. It's too much.
I don't
Right.
know what's so bad about
But that company, Dessert Fix, they've come overnight.
overnight. Yeah.
They were struggling. It was a British Egyptian girl, and her and husband. They went to UAE. She was pregnant. She was getting cravings. It was COVID as well. She was furloughed, and they came out with that idea. Business was very slow. Some TikToker blew them up, and that was it.
It's like, you know, TikTok. We went to B&Q yesterday looking for some paint. And my wife's seen this paint, goose feathers. It's a Volsper paint, and from B&Q. Started talking to the guy over the counter. He goes, this goose feathers, apparently some TikTok guy took it, made it paint. He goes, we've had so many people come and ask for this. It's literally out of stock everywhere.
It's the power of social media, isn't it?
It's
You
mad.
have sheep, you have people, and you have the middle point, which is called sheeple.
What?
Sheeple.
Sheeple.
Right. So people are doing things not because they want to do them.
Beautiful, bro.
They-
Honestly, perfect. Not sweet at all. You can eat them, man.
They're doing them because they've seen it on TikTok or Instagram, and they've seen the famous influencer do this, and they want to be like him or her. And it's a sad state of affairs, but it's the way the world is.
It is because people are looking for other people now for validation.
Yeah.
You know, and if they don't get that validation, that's it. Their life's over. They might be very, very, very talented, but they're just looking in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it. But on that note, Ammar, it was very nice to see you.
It's nice to catch
And
up with you.
it's very, very, very nice. Like I said earlier as well, very nice to see you doing really well.
Thanks for having me.
I didn't know Sweet Joe's was. I mean, I don't eat sweet stuff. If I have a drink, it has to be sugar free. Any ideas for a sugar free cookie?
Oh, that's an idea for you. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know, for all the gym lot, you know, you want to have a little sweet craving or whatever, you can have a sugar free cookie.
I don't know. Look, Nas, I've done transformations. I've got in shape myself as well, right? And
Yeah.
I'm of the opinion that, look, certain things, they shouldn't be messed with, right? When you want a dessert, have a bloody dessert.
Yeah.
Just do more steps,
Yeah, like you can't have
right?
a dessert every weekend.
100%. Have you tasted any of the whey protein desserts that are out there? Whether it's the ice cream or whether it's the brownies or whatnot.
I have.
A lot of them taste like cardboard with sweetness,
They do.
right? And again, it's like, and you're still going to get the bad calories with them as well. Although you'll get that 10 gram protein or whatever,
Yeah.
you're getting the bad calories.
You do.
Why don't you just eat the cookie, do an extra session of cardio?
But the thing is, hear me out now, yeah? Because I've done that experiment as well. It doesn't work. Because you know that cookie, with the whey protein, I'll probably get, say, 250 calories. With that cookie there,
About 500 calories.
Yeah, and you're not gonna have one of them because it's all bloody nice.
Yeah.
So you probably have two. That's 1,000. And you know how long it takes to burn off 1,000 calories?
Yeah. A long time.
That's the difference.
time.
Yeah. So that's the difference. But
Yeah.
once a month or whatever, if you are gonna have a dessert, go all out. That's what I do. I'll have it
that's what I
once a
believe in
month
as
or
well.
once in a couple of months. But when I do it, you go all out. That's it, because you know you're not gonna have it again for the next 2 months, 3 months, and it's all right. But Ammar, again, very, very nice to see you, and very nice, mashallah, you're doing really well. I wish you all the best, inshallah, and I will come and see you at the store as well.
Inshallah, yeah.
And he's got your number now anyway, so
He does,
we'll come round and we'll make sure you're there first.
Inshallah.
Not that we want free cookies, not that. we just wanna put that out there. But bro, all the best.
Thank you very much.
Inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Salam.
Thank you for having me. Wa alaikum salam.